No one in the quiet, lantern-lit house truly noticed when Farah began to cry at night. The walls had grown used to silence, and her sobs were soft enough to blend with the hum of the wind outside. To her son, Ayan, she was the same gentle mother who smiled when he left for work every morning and asked about his day every evening. To Mehar, her daughter-in-law, she was a kind but distant woman, polite, reserved, never demanding. But when darkness wrapped the sky and everyone else drifted into dreams, Farah sat at the edge of her bed, clutching a small wooden box that no one else had ever seen. Her fingers traced its carved lid as though her soul lived inside it. Then came the tears, quiet, steady, and endless, like rain that the earth could never drink enough of. Mehar had noticed, of course. She was the kind of person who sensed when a heart was in pain, even if no words were spoken. She heard the faint sound once while pouring herself water late at night, a trembling cry from the other room that made her chest tighten. She hesitated at the door, unsure if she should knock, but she didn't. It felt like walking into someone's private storm. The next morning she told Ayan gently, "Your mother seemed upset last night." "I think she was crying." Ayan frowned, distracted, tying his tie. "You must be mistaken," he said. "She's fine." Maybe she wasn't feeling well. Then he smiled, kissed Mehar's forehead, and left for work, unaware that behind the closed door, his mother had spent the night whispering names no one had heard before. Days passed, but the nights didn't change. Mehar grew curious and then concerned. She tried to bring warmth into the home, small gestures, fresh flowers on the table, tea served exactly how Farah liked it, soft conversation. Sometimes Farah smiled faintly, but there was a faraway look in her eyes. Her laughter, when it came, always ended too soon, as if she remembered something painful halfway through. Mehar often wondered, what could make a mother so sad in a house full of love? One evening, a power outage wrapped the neighborhood in darkness. Candles flickered across the house, and shadows danced softly on the walls. Farah was sitting in the living room, her hands trembling slightly as she held an old photo frame. Mehar approached quietly, placing a candle on the table. "That's a beautiful picture," she said gently. Farah startled slightly and turned the frame face down. "Just an old memory," she replied, her voice fragile but calm. "Some memories are better left in the dark." Mehar nodded respectfully, but inside, her heart ached. She wanted to say, "Sometimes sharing them brings light back," but she stayed silent. Over time, Mehar began noticing other small things. The way Farah lingered near the window when the evening azan echoed from the mosque. How she held her teacup as though it might slip from her hand. The way she touched her left wrist when she thought no one was looking, as if remembering something once worn there. One afternoon, while cleaning the storeroom, Mehar found an old box under a stack of folded blankets. Inside lay a few faded photographs, a letter sealed in a torn envelope, and a little silver bracelet shaped like a butterfly. The name Ariba was engraved on it in delicate script. Mehar froze. She didn't know who Ariba was. The name had never come up in family conversations. There were no mentions of siblings, no framed photos beyond Ayan's childhood ones. Carefully, she tucked everything back and left the box as it was. But that night, when she lay in bed beside Ayan, she couldn't stop thinking about it. "Ayan," she whispered, "did your mother ever mention someone named Ariba?" He frowned slightly in his half-sleep. "Ariba?" "No, I don't think so. Why?" "Nothing," she said softly. "Just curious." But inside, curiosity had already turned into worry. The following night, when she heard Farah's muffled crying again, she couldn't stay still. Quietly, she stepped out of her room and walked down the hallway. The door to Farah's room was slightly ajar. Through the narrow gap, Mehar saw her mother-in-law sitting on the floor beside her bed, that same wooden box open before her, tears streaming down her face as she held a small photograph against her chest. The candlelight flickered over her features, a face both fragile and strong, haunted yet loving. Mehar's throat tightened. She took a step closer, then stopped herself again, torn between respect and care. When Farah finally noticed her, she quickly wiped her tears, straightened her dupatta, and forced a small smile. "You should be asleep, Beta," she said quietly. "It's late." Mehar hesitated, then whispered, "I couldn't sleep. I heard you crying. Are you okay?" Farah looked away, her lips trembling. "Some pains don't fade, no matter how many years pass," she said softly. "But you shouldn't worry. You're young. Life should be kind to you." Then, as if afraid her emotions would betray her again, she stood and closed the box. The next morning, the house was filled with the smell of parathas and chai. Farah was cheerful, humming softly as if nothing had happened. Mehar didn't mention the night before. She only watched, quietly, kindly, as Farah moved about the kitchen, her face calm but her eyes tired. A few weeks later, on a breezy afternoon, a neighborhood boy named Sammy began visiting. He was about 10, bright-eyed, polite, and always full of stories. His mother worked long hours, and Farah often offered him tea and biscuits when he passed by their gate after school. Strangely, every time Farah saw him, her face softened, like a frozen heart thawing under sunlight. She'd smile more, talk more. One day, Mehar saw Farah helping the boy fix his torn school bag. Her hands moved tenderly, her voice gentle, her eyes shining with something that looked like both love and sorrow. That night, Mehar asked her, "You seem to like Sammy a lot." Farah smiled faintly. "He reminds me of someone I used to know." Mehar waited, hoping she would say more, but Farah's voice faded into silence. Later, as Mehar turned off the lights, she caught a glimpse of Farah standing by the window, looking out toward the stars. The faint glow from the streetlights touched her face, and for the first time, Mehar saw a hint of peace there, as if the presence of that small boy had stirred something gentle inside her. And yet, that same night, Mehar heard her crying again, softer this time, but still there, like a quiet ache refusing to leave. Part 2. The secret begins to unfold. Days passed into weeks, and though life seemed ordinary from the outside, something inside the house had shifted. Mehar could feel it in the air, like the scent of rain before a storm, something unspoken but heavy with meaning. Farah seemed more alive when Sammy visited. She'd ask him about school, listen to his stories about his mischievous friends, even laugh sometimes, though the laughter carried a tremor, as if borrowed from old memories. Mehar often watched them from the kitchen doorway, the small boy sitting cross-legged on the rug, eating biscuits, and Farah watching him with eyes that glimmered with a strange mixture of love and longing. There were moments when she'd reach out and gently fix his collar, her hands trembling slightly, whispering, "You remind me so much of her." Sammy would look puzzled and ask, "Who, Auntie?" And she'd smile and say, "Someone who used to fill this house with laughter." Then she'd look away quickly,
as if afraid to let the tears spill again. Mehar could no longer ignore the mystery. She felt a quiet ache, not only curiosity, but empathy. She wanted to help, to heal whatever wound lived inside Farah's heart. One afternoon, when Ayan was at work and Farah was resting, Mehar went to the storeroom again. She opened the old box she had found before, her hands trembling slightly. Inside were those same faded photos, the little silver bracelet, and the unopened letter. The envelope was worn, its edges yellowed, but the handwriting on it was delicate and careful. The words read, "To my dearest Farah." Mehar's breath caught. She hesitated, torn between respect and the need to understand, then slowly opened it. The paper inside was fragile, the ink faint, but the words were full of love and sorrow. "My beloved Farah, if you are reading this, it means time has passed and memories have faded, but I pray your heart still remembers the laughter of our little Ariba. She was the light of your eyes and mine. I know how much you blamed yourself that night, but please, my love, do not carry that burden forever. What happened was not your fault. You did everything you could. Sometimes God takes the purest souls early because heaven misses its angels. Ariba will always live through you, through Ayayan, through every kindness you show the world. Please, Farah, smile again." She would want that tears welled in Mehar's eyes as she folded the letter back. The words, "You blamed yourself that night," echoed in her mind like a haunting melody. She now understood. Reba wasn't just a forgotten name. She was Farah's daughter, lost in a tragedy that had never healed. Mehar sat there for a long time, her heart heavy but full of compassion.
She decided she wouldn't confront Farah directly. Deep needed gentleness, not questions. Instead, she would find a way to bring warmth back into Farah's world. That evening, Mehar invited Sammy and his mother over for dinner, saying she wanted to thank them for always being kind neighbors. Farah looked surprised, but pleased. When Sammy arrived, Farah's eyes brightened instantly. Throughout dinner, she spoke more than usual, even sharing small jokes about Ayan's childhood. For the first time in years, her laughter sounded genuine. After the guests left, Mehar saw her mother-in-law lingering near the dining table, holding the empty glass Sammy had used. She smiled softly, whisper,